Ayman. So now we have audio. I went ahead and sent. I went ahead and used this program to send 3 different people their weekly updates, and none of them had video. So I started every video too by saying this is a new technology, and I'm not a very techie guy. So that's absolute proof of it. But we'll go ahead and get the update done. Let's go ahead and start by looking at a few of your videos. Again, this is a new software, but it'll be really helpful in just helping out, just kind of communicate what I'm thinking, because when you're reading something, it's not always the best translation. And on top of that, I really like kind of acting things out. So let's go ahead and look at some of your stuff. So to start, this guy here, the sumo deadlift. Your sumo deadlift's gotten a lot better, a ton better, looking really good. But you'll notice that, look where your hips are on the first one. It's important to note this because one of the best coaching tools to use with the sumo deadlift, or any deadlift really, is that oftentimes people drop their hips far too low. Now, if you see that on the first rep, there's a ton of forward motion, and then the second rep moves much better and his hip starts much higher, that tells us that that needs to be where their hips are for the first rep as well. And as you can see, there was a lot of forward motion on this one. That forward motion was caused by us not building tensions quite as well as we could. Now, second rep, hips stay high, and it flies. Moves really, really well. Now, there's a specific reason for that, and that's because that's where your hips need to be to produce force best and create the best hinging pattern. So a big thing for you is just going to be starting with your hips higher, building tension to there, and just keeping in mind that that's your spot. That is absolutely your spot, and we got to recreate that every single time. Let's go ahead and look at the next lift. Next one I have for you. Boom. All right, bench. So with your bench press, looking at several different things. First things I've noticed is that oftentimes when someone's holding the barbell, the wrist position is inside their elbows. That is always something that we want to avoid. We don't want somebody's wrist position to be inside the elbows. That's like actually the only spot we don't want them at. Ideally, they're perfectly stacked throughout, wrist directly above a wrist, barbell, elbow, all directly connected. Now, sometimes a lot of elite level benchers actually have a grip that's a little too wide, but at the same time, it actually helps them to create tension with certain kinds of builds and can be very beneficial. So that is a slight exception to the rule, but for the most part, we're going for the most stacked position possible. And more than anything, we just don't want our elbows outside here. If they're a little too inside because you have a wider grip, that's okay in some occasions, but for you, I just suggest going 2 to 3 finger widths out wider on the bar. And that may not feel great right off the bat because your body's not adapted to it yet, but give it a few months, or actually more like a few weeks, and I guarantee once your body adapts to it, it's going to raise your ceiling quite a bit and decreases the chances of injury as well. So that's probably the first thing I noticed. The second thing I noticed is that we definitely can get better with leg drive. You have to understand that though bench press is a upper body movement, leg drive is still a big part of it. So right now your legs aren't doing a ton for you. We're not creating as much tension as we otherwise could. They're just kind of out there. Now what we want to do is we want to grab our feet and put them as far under us as possible while still maintaining the ability to keep them flat to the floor. It's actually really important. It's going to help with stabilization, power transfer, and a slew of other things. So if we go back to the video here, you can see a few of the things I'm talking about. If it plays, there we go, beautiful. So elbows end up being outside of your wrists. That's a key indicator that we're going too close with our grip. Feet aren't doing a ton for us. They can get a lot farther under us, and we don't have quite optimal quad tension. Now, the last piece I would say is that you'll notice that your bar path's pretty straight up and down for the most part. There's a little bit of backwards motion. At the same time, you'd benefit greatly for having a little more backwards motion, but there is a caveat there. A lot of people will start that backwards motion right off the start, and then if it ends up being a heavy weight, trying to power through a weight when the weight's up here, it ends up being what I call the skull crusher fault. So we're going to go ahead and go straight up, last bit, going back towards the spotter's face if there was one. So just changing up the bar path just a little bit, just a hair, is also going to help greatly. Let's go ahead and look at your choice. All right, awesome. So going to the training log. Oh no. Sorry, I don't have it pulled out just yet. Of course, my computer's being nice and slow today. All right, so going back to the training log, as you can see, we're going to go ahead and finish out this rep cycle. This will be a last week. And what I'd like you to do is really push load. Push load as much as you can this last week, because the first week of the next block that starts on Wednesday is actually going to be somewhat of a deload. So we're going to go ahead and keep the reps in reserve high. Load ranges will be very light. And more than anything, we're going to get used to the new training split. I do plan on adding a 5th day, though, because that is something you requested. And when we add a 5th day, I'm also going to go to 2 harder circuit training sessions at the end of 2 out of the 5 days, which will be very beneficial for some of your aesthetic goals. In fact, I see myself doing that tonight. I have a few more people that I really have to update, but at the same time, I see myself doing that tonight, so this might change a little bit, but a lot of the primary lists will stay the same. There are some new things on here for you. Spoto press, we're going to do a 3 to 4 count pause 2 inches off the chest, so we're increasing the length of that pause. So that's probably one of the big changes for bench primary. When it comes to squat, a little longer pause out of the hole. I really want you to push the 2 set to 2, really go hard on it, kind of develop some of the neurological adaptations we're looking for. Dumbbell step ups, 25 seconds straight. That'll be a good amount of little cardio for you, using a weight where you still have 3 to 5 reps in reserve by the end of that 25 seconds. Snatch grip deadlifts. That's going to be a new one for you. That one's going to be a really good one for developing upper back size, strength, and just a lot of really good strength qualities from the upper back is going to come from this. So snatch grip deadlift, obviously just a really wide variation of deadlift, but it's going to be very beneficial for a lot of your aesthetic goals along with strength. Chainsaw, cutting down the reps quite a bit, 6 per side instead I think it was 8 per side. Pin squat, that's going to be another new one for you. We're setting the pins to where as you're squatting, you should hit 90 degrees when the barbell hits the pins. We'll rest there for 1 second and then pop right up. We're producing force from a point in the squat that's very tough to do so from. Front squat with the 2 count pause, and this was kind of my small kind of tri-set circuit style of training, but now that I know it's a specific request for you, I'm going to add to this quite a bit and change things up greatly. But again, a lot of the main stuff is going to continue. So I think that is just about it for now. I'm going to go ahead and update that tonight, though, once I send you this video. But yeah, really like what I'm seeing. Movement's getting a lot better. We just got to make those small changes that I mentioned earlier. The one last thing I want to leave you on is I do want to see maybe a few more videos if you could. The more the better, to an extent, obviously. Not at a 30, 20-minute videos or something like that. Believe it or not, I have gotten that in the past. So now that's not necessarily needed, but at the same time, maybe getting 2 of each lift if you can, and then making sure that it's squat, bench, and deadlift every week if possible, along with any other exercise variations that are giving you trouble aren't going quite as well as you expected. So that would be really helpful from my end as well as yours.